Hello and welcome to the AIDEM Interactions. The AIDEM is today in Varanasi, and for many decades it has been my usual habit when I come to Varanasi to drop in and see Viswanath Pandey, writer of great significance, the face of the Banaras Hindu University for such a long time. And I just fixed up with him and I told him that I'll come and meet him today. And when I came here, I got a big bonus in the form of Sudheendra Kulkarni, another famous writer, journalist, man of many parts, including the part of being the press secretary to former Deputy Prime Minister of the country, Lal Krishna Advani. Welcome to both of you in the AIDEM Interactions. So Pandeyji, as is the want, I'll start with you. See, I normally come, you kind of name me as an election bird coming to Varanasi from time to time. So this time also I am an election bird, but then we have met in between also.
Yes.
So how do you look at this election? There is a major stream of opinion which says that this has become a bipolar election and it's an election of stiff contest. So we are at the fag end of the polling. How do you look at this?
This is the last phase in Varanasi, that would be the 7th one. And now it's going to be a big concentration of all the party supreme leaders, including our Prime Minister Modi ji. And this election, which I am watching from beginning, is very interesting because that various established phenomenon is getting blurred. And the analysis is very difficult to make because there are so many factors factoring in. And as it is emerged now that there is going to be a state contest between BJP and the Sapa, and between
The direct, it will be direct contest.
Direct contest, and one of them going to be emerged Victorian with a very slight margin.
What is your gut feeling? Who is winning?
It's very difficult to say if you ask me. No, I'm honest about this because from very beginning I had been of the opinion that whosoever is going to win will get
Slight majority.
With a slight majority, and difficult to say that who will eventually come victorious. Very difficult.
So, Sudheendra ji, of course, all of us know, again, I go back a very long way with you, since the 1980s. You are a political animal that all of us know, and you are also not a person confined by geographical limitations or spaces. But what brings you to Varanasi?
First of all, I must congratulate you and I must congratulate AIDEM. It's a very bold venture because you are, the very name suggests that you are probably wanting to rewrite and reorient the way media functions in India. And to find that a unit from Kerala has come all the way to Varanasi to cover the election shows that the mainstream media is going to be challenged very heavily, and it deserves to be challenged because the mainstream media, with honorable exceptions, has really ceased to be a media that performs the dharma of media. So first of all, my heartiest congratulations to you.
To kind of remember the famous quote of Advani ji when he said during the emergency, when they were asked to bend, they crawled.
They crawled.
Yeah.
So now they are doing Sashtang Namaskar without even being asked.
They are prostrated.
Because, in Hindi, the audience in Kerala should know this. It's called Godi media.
This is a trilingual term. Godi media is very well known in Kerala.
Means actually this media has come and sat in the lap of the powers that be. So this deserves to be challenged and it deserves to be defeated. And part of defeating this is defeating the BJP of today. And that is what has brought me to Uttar Pradesh this time and to several other states that are going to polls. I was in Goa, I was in Punjab. I have worked in the BJP for a long time, for 16 long years. I have worked with stalwarts Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji in the Prime Minister's office. I have also worked with the Deputy Prime Minister Lal Krishna Advani ji. But the BJP of today, the BJP of Modi and Amit Shah is not at all the BJP that I worked in.
What is different?
What is different is that today's BJP has absolutely no faith in the basic values of the constitution, especially democracy and of course secularism. All democratic institutions are under attack, including the freedom of expression. And if these constitutional values are to be defended, then the BJP must be defeated in state after state, especially in a very critical state like Uttar Pradesh. And if the BJP is defeated this time in Uttar Pradesh, the road will be open for defeating the BJP at the center in 2024. And that's what has brought me to
So what are you
Uttar
seeing
Pradesh.
after coming to Varanasi? What are you seeing? What are you seeing?
I am not going to make any prediction, but lots of people are saying that they want badlav, that is, they want change. And for the last 40 years, if you see in Uttar Pradesh, not a single incumbent government has been voted back to office. This has been the trend. And there is no reason to believe that the government of Yogi Adityanath has given such splendid governance that people want to give them a second term. So I see parivartan, I see change.
Viswanath ji, I will bring in one argument that you have. You are not just a kind of observer of politics. You are an observer of society, and your sociological observations. I've always valued them. In fact, that is why whenever I come to Varanasi, I make it a point to meet you. Yeah. So, but one thing you have been always telling me, though we all know that you are a great follower of Madan Mohan Malviya ji, his ideology, his philosophy, which is apparently supposed to be very close to the Hindutva ideology that we have at this point of time. But in spite of that, you have been consistently opposed to communal Hindutva. I mean, at an individual level, I know that though you don't make a public statement about it, but then in our private conversations, we have referred to that so many times, and you say that this polarizing element of the Hindutva forces is a very deep-rooted thing, and it is a very potent electoral weapon. So, in the context of what Sudheendra ji was saying, how do you look at?
Number one, that I would like to clarify that Malviya was never votary of Hindu communism. That is why when I wrote my final book, fifth book, of which I'm very proud that Mushil Hassan, who once during my discussions with him and who declared that when the court language fighting was led by Malviya ji was in communal state, he then agreed to change his views on my arguments and the things which I placed to him. He was a great stalwart historian, but then he agreed to my argument. And finally, he wrote a foreword of my book.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yes. So that Malviya was a never Hindu communist, and I had a great debate during my conversations with the RSS stalwarts that it is a Indian nationalism or a Hindu nationalism, and where does the Malviya stand for, and I myself also stand for. So it is an Indian nationalism, that's one thing. There is nothing like Hindu nationalism, I don't believe in that. That's why I oppose it that there is nothing like Hindutva also, we can debate on this.
Okay.
That, Hindutva, notion of Hindutva is a creation of journalism. No, I am very emphatic about it.
No, but Savarkar called it so.
Savarkar is talking a different thing, don't confuse Savarkar's views here. So there is nothing like Hindutva. And once I told to the many journalist conglomeration also, there was a great debate. And but this Hindu communism which you are referring to, that being a sociologist, I am watching it with concern, that Hindu communalism is taking deep root because of the binary of narratives between Hindu and Muslims. That's very important to see. that how this narrative is getting rooted. That is very interesting to watch. And over the years, I have noted it that with various sociological and economic factors, this narrative is getting
Stronger.
being stronger, rooted, and working at a very subtle level. It's very difficult to watch from outside.
You are saying that it has got ingrained with the consciousness of the people.
Consciousness of the people. That's very dangerous. But I have a correction to make, which I talked to a friend sociologist this morning, who was my co-supervisor also of my thesis, and I told him that the recent phenomenon which we are observing, that during present election there was a very serious attempt to polarize things and create communal tension in the parts of UP and particularly in the western UP when the elections euphoria was on a great extent. And but the society does not react at all.
It is being argued that the hijab controversy in Karnataka was also created for the Uttar Pradesh election.
So it's a learning for us.
So
But
are you
we are constant to observe that are we getting a change phenomenon also? We will have to revise our position which I am taking now. That now there are different elements which needs to be analyzed very deeply.
perhaps this consciousness is kind of being reversed?
Reverse, and they might have seen the futility of it.
Yeah.
That this is useless, This
Yeah.
will not take us anywhere.
Sudheendra ji,
That's a very good development if it
really happens.
gets rooted. I will be very happy to. And I mean the Malviya which you referred initially will also know.
No, in fact, there is a new studies on secularism which say that that this Western concept of secularism is not fit for many developing nations. I mean, not just India, many developing nations. So there are so many people who now argue, when have made studies on this, how the basic cultural streams of each nation, each country, each community has to be ingrained into the secular concept. But anyway, we'll come to that. I think it's a long debate that we can have at some point of time. To continue with what Pandey was saying, there is a very strong opinion that this break in this huge polarization project has essentially happened because of the farmers' agitation and the impact it has created in Western Uttar Pradesh. How do you look at an argument like that?
Yeah, before I come to this question, I would like to really endorse what Dr. Viswanath Pandey ji said just now about Madan Mohan Malviya ji. Unfortunately, there is a misconception, especially amongst the leftist intellectuals and politicians, that he was a Hindu communalist. It is far from the truth. And this book that Dr. Pandey ji has authored on Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya and his contribution to the freedom struggle, the leftist forces in India really need to rethink, first of all, their understanding of secularism, and also the contributions of many people like Malviya ji made to India's freedom struggle. As we all know, he was a close associate of Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi had great admiration for Madan Mohan Malviya. Now I come to your question. The BJP has done everything it can to polarize this election. We must say this to the credit of the people of Uttar Pradesh, that they have not fallen prey to this. And the beginning has been actually from Western Uttar Pradesh, where we saw a valiant farmer struggle for more than a year, along with their counterparts in Punjab and Haryana. And as you very well know, in the previous elections, 2014 parliamentary election, 2017 Vidhan Sabha election, 2019 parliamentary election, the BJP polarized the society, especially in Western UP, and reaped huge benefits. But this time around, thanks to the farmers' struggle, which united Hindus and Muslims, which also united many castes in the Hindu society itself, the BJP's efforts to divide society electorate have not worked. And it's not just in Western UP. Even in the rest of Uttar Pradesh, this time, the people have completely ignored, or I would say largely, not that,
It's not been completely ineffective, but
nevertheless, you see, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, he went to the level of saying that this election is a 80% versus 20%. This goes against the constitution. It also goes against the letter and spirit of the laws that govern elections in this country.
The moral code, the very
Yes,
moral code.
of course the election commissions did nothing. What is this 80% versus 20%? The Constitution of India requires every single party to work for 100%. And this time, the efforts to polarize are not working, even though they are making all kinds of efforts, including painting a certain political parties as terrorists. We had the Prime Minister himself calling the Congress party as the leader of the Tukde gang. He made this allegation, most baseless allegation, in Parliament. But all this is not working, and I think that the people of Uttar Pradesh will teach the BJP a lesson.
there is a counter argument, on this geographical, from west to east as we travel. The counter argument is that the farmers' agitation had an emotional quotient. It is a very highly emotive issue, and that is why the Jat Muslim consolidation which happened as part of the farmers' agitation has stayed. But the argument is that as you travel towards the east, the farmers' agitation, the impact of the farmers' agitation is much lesser, and there is no emotive quotient, and it is where the BJP's earlier tactics and the social engineering it has done for so many decades will work. This is a question to both of you. Perhaps Sudheendra can start.
Of course, we all know that the farmers' agitation did not spread to either central UP or eastern UP or Bundelkhand. Nevertheless, the people of Uttar Pradesh, especially the farming community, they were very closely watching what was happening in western UP, what was happening in Punjab, Haryana, and they have observed how it is the farmers of India that united, transcending caste and also transcending religious divide. So even though they did not participate in the farmers' movement, the effect of the farmers' movement has spread. That has not completely wiped out the communal consciousness, which unfortunately has percolated in Indian society and also society in Uttar Pradesh. But is there a single instance in this entire election campaign where efforts to communalize society have worked? People have not fallen prey to it. Even though, as you yourself mentioned, the hijab controversy in Karnataka was very cleverly started in order to influence the campaign in Uttar Pradesh. No effect. So, I would say therefore that this time around, one very important thing has happened in Uttar Pradesh, and that is people once again have become conscious of their caste identity. This is an extremely important thing that we have, that we should make a distinction between casteism and people wanting fair share for their caste in the system of power. The resurgence of caste in this election, especially the backward caste, is an important factor, and we are probably going to see this in many states across the country.
Your take, Krishnaji.
No, that's very true. I agree with Sudheendra ji that the sympathy and empathy both of all the farmers at the four corners of our country was with the movement. That movement itself, I have witnessed is a great journey of history in itself, because in postmodernism, sir, and in the market economy and the advent of capitalism, they say that this kind of movement cannot be sustained for long. But it is,
Very
surprisingly,
They stayed for more than a year.
more than a year, and they succeeded. Let's say it's a great upheaval. That what we also talked this morning with my friend, which I had referred to earlier. That what is this? There is some shift, radical shift in the. This Ukraine crisis is also showing that the bipolar world is going to be, having a different shape after this war. The culmination of this war. So there is some great journey.
Yeah, even in the case of Ukraine, if you look at as you said, this bipolar thing, France and Germany do not want to be part of the US.
Rus itself has now become another world.
Yeah.
After the collapse of Cold War, so there is going to be different world when this Ukraine war is over. It's a manifestation of many other parallel narratives which are emerging out of this. So that in that way that the farmers' agitation was also
A very important. I think that could be called the watershed movement.
yes
In the precursor watershed movement.
Turning, not only that hijab things, they Karana raised there.
Yeah.
They could not succeed. They made several attempts.
And Mathura was also raised.
Mathura also, and to polarize the things. That is why this Kashi Dham was inaugurated during this phase. So, but that none of them have succeeded, and none of them have been able to raise the kind of desirous result which the forces were wanting. So it's very revealing and very interesting to watch all this. We will sit again now.
So we'll sit again. But one final question. Of course, I think both of you have come to a consensus that this communal project, the communalizing effect, that has failed. So, does it mean that the opposition, especially the Samajwadi Party and Akhilesh Yadav, have got the critical mass to overthrow this government?
No, but I am very skeptical about the future of the government which is going to take place. Let me tell you very frankly, I am not very confident with both of them. That what outcome they will show to us is to be watched. I'm not very sure about that. But then as a social phenomenon, this is going to be very interesting.
It will be an important event.
Very important event, very loaded with many elements to get analyzed and to come out with the new narratives, the new theorizing of all this. That's a great. In that way, this politics and this election has been very interesting.
Sudheendra ji, your take.
This election has certainly created Akhilesh Yadav as a star challenger to the might of the BJP, and he is quite likely to win. But there is another important development that has taken place in the UP election this time, and that is the beginning of the revival of the Congress party in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh, Congress has been out of power for nearly 4 decades, and until a year ago, people were saying that Congress is nowhere in the picture. Congress may not improve its tally in terms of MLAs much from its 2017 tally of 7. Nevertheless, something interesting is happening. The Congress party is getting considerable support from the people wherever Priyanka Gandhi has been campaigning. So the vote share will go up, and what people are saying is that all this is preparing the ground for 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So one of the slogans that I have heard in many places in Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow, I have travelled Lucknow, Raebareli, Kanpur, Azamgarh. This slogan is 22 में Akhilesh, 24 में Congress. 22 is 2022. In 2022 it is Akhilesh, and 2024 it is Congress, because then it is a fight for the national, and the Congress is going to perform if, and this is a very important if the Congress leadership, especially Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, continue to focus on Uttar Pradesh, which they have not done in the past. Had Priyanka Gandhi started this a couple of years ago, before the corona pandemic, perhaps the response would have been much better. But nevertheless, this is a very significant development, a good development for the change at the center. So I would let me summarize this. Yogi Mukt Uttar Pradesh and Modi Mukt Bharat.
No, but I want to enjoin my one concern to Sudheendra, that I had came across many analysis before the advent of the election process in Uttar Pradesh, that Congress is not only making dent so far the vote percentages are concerned, but also in the seat tally. At least they were expecting to win 30-40 seats in the election because of the efforts made by the Priyanka Gandhi. But now when the election process gets rolling, then that has evaporated, and now the people are saying that no, it's not going to be 30 seats at this juncture, maybe later on. But the vote percentage...
That is something which we will have to look.
But why this is so?
No,
Where those 30 seats gone?
No, I think this is because I think the election has become bipolar in the last 1.5 months. The election has become, because this fragmentation has changed, and people have come together to join Akhilesh.
Because earlier they were saying that they are going to get 30-40 seats this time.
Let me conclude this.
Yeah.
Indeed, it has been a very interesting conversation with two intellectual stalwarts, one hailing from Maharashtra and the other from Uttar Pradesh, from Varanasi. Of course, both of them are focusing on Uttar Pradesh, not just the politics of Uttar Pradesh, but the sociology and the larger political climate in this country. Of course, they have come up with their own propositions, and of course, it is not our job to do the final, say any final word, but certainly there is little doubt that this election is going to be one of the most significant, even historical elections, assembly elections, which have ever happened in this country. Thank you, Sudheendra ji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.